You're muted.
Sorry. Okay, so do it now. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So yes, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, those past and present, and particularly on where I am at the moment, of the Gadigal people who had faced the first impact of colonisation, and those who have survived are with us today and hold that custodianship over the land. And just like to acknowledge all our ancestors who have come before us, and yeah, I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. So we're going to listen to two musical items, and then we'll go through the readings and have that another musical item before we go to the next stage. Thank you.
Oppressors on earth, withdraw your hands from tyranny, for I have pledged myself not to forgive any man's injustice. This is my covenant, which I have irrevocably decreed in the preserved tablet, and sealed it with my seal of glory. This is my covenant, which I have irrevocably decreed in the preserved tablet, and sealed it with my seal of glory, of glory, of glory, of glory, of glory. This is my covenant.
The best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Turn not, turn not, turn not away therefrom, if thou desirest me, and neglect it not, that I may confide in thee. By its aid thou shalt see with thine own eyes, and not through the eyes of others. said it then before thine eyes, said it then before thine eyes, O Son of Spirit.
Justice has a mighty force at its command. It is none other than reward and punishment for the deeds of men. By the power of this force, the tabernacle of order is established throughout the world, causing the wicked to restrain their natures for fear of punishment. It ill beseemeth the station of men who commit tyranny. Rather, it behoveth him to observe equity and be attired, give the raiment of thus take under all conditions. Beseech thee, the one true God, that he may, through the power of the hand of love and kindness and spiritual education, purge and purify certain souls from the defilement of evil passions and corrupt desires, that perchance the evidences of injustice may be blotted out, and the splendor of the light of justice may shed its radiance upon the whole world. Tablets of Baha'u'llah, page 164, 170.
He is not thereby just because he hastily arbitrates. The wise man should investigate both right and wrong. The intelligent man leads others not falsely, but lawfully and impartially. Buddhism, the Dhammapada. That which is good for all and anyone, for whomsoever, that is good for me. What I hold good for self, I should for all. Only law universal is true law. Zoroastrianism, Zendavesta. What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. That is the entire Torah. As thou desirest that evils not befall thee, but to partake of all that is good, thou shouldst act in this spirit to thy subjects and to offenders. Judaism, Babylonian Talmud, letter of Aristeas.
Do not to others what ye do not wish done to yourself, and wish for others too what ye desire and long for yourself. This is the whole of Dharma, Hinduism, Mahabharata. Masters, give unto your servants that which is just and equal, knowing that ye also have a master in heaven. Christianity, the New Testament, Colossians. O ye who believe, stand out firmly for God as witnesses to fair dealing, and let not the hatred of others to you make you swerve to wrong and depart from justice. Be just, that is next to piety, and fear God, for God is well acquainted with all that you do. If thou judge, judge in equity between them, for God loveth those who judge in equity. Islam, the Quran.
Justice is not limited. It is a universal quality. Its operation must be carried out in all classes, from the highest to the lowest, Each man has been placed in a post of honour, which he must not desert. A humble workman who commits an injustice is just as much to blame as a renowned tyrant. Thus we all have our choice between justice and injustice. I hope that each one of you will become just and direct your thoughts toward the unity of mankind, that you will never harm your neighbours, nor speak ill of anyone, that you will respect the rights of all men, and be more concerned for the interests of others than of your own. Thus will you become torches of divine justice. Thus shall we rejoice in the sun of justice, which shines from the horizon of God. Abdu'l-Baha, Paris Talks.
The word of God, which the supreme pen had recorded on the sixth leaf of the most exalted paradise, is the following. The light of man is justice. Quench it not with the tyranny, with the contrary winds of oppression and tyranny. The purpose of justice is the appearance of unity among men. The ocean of divine wisdom surged within this exalted word, while the books of the world cannot contain its inner significance. This is from Baha'u'llah.
As forgiveness is one of the attributes of the merciful one, also is justice one of the attributes of the Lord. The tent of existence is upheld upon the pillar of justice and not upon forgiveness. So if at present the law of pardon were practiced in all countries, in a short time the world would be disordered and the foundations of human life would crumble. For example, if the governments of Europe had not withstood the notorious Attila, he would not have left a single living man. Abdu'l-Baha.
Know thou verily that the essence of justice and the source thereof are both embodied in the ordinances prescribed by him who is the manifestation of the self of God amongst men. If he be of them that recognize this truth, he doth really incarnate the highest, the infallible standard of justice unto all creation. Baha'u'llah.
O God, my God, aid thou thy trusted servants to have loving and tender hearts. Help them to spread amongst all the nations of the earth the light of guidance that cometh from the company on high. Verily, thou art the strong, the power powerful, the mighty, the all-subduing, the ever-giving. Verily, thou art the generous, the gentle, the tender, the most bountiful.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for your presence tonight. Your contribution is also very valuable and needs to be acknowledged. So thank you for bringing your listening ears and hearts to tonight's talk. We are very blessed to have Faith Black going to talk to us this evening about a First Nations woman's perspective of bringing the unity of humanity. And if there's anybody who faces injustice, waiting for justice in this country, it is our First Nations people. So it's even more powerful when we can hear about their perspective about how to create unity. So Faith is a Montessori teacher, as well as an activist, and a very kind and caring person. So without further ado, Faith, please give Faith your full attention and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Diva, Basanta, and everybody here tonight. Give me this opportunity also to just express things that I have inside of me. It's good to get it out there as well. So thank you for this. So global unity. We all know that is like those quotes that were being read. There's justice, there's got to be equity, and foremost is love and peace. I suspect without justice, how can we have how can we have peace? So like I feel like this country is the last bastion now for, I guess, the world, where the colonization has taken place, that we make the most of it here. This is the last place on earth that we can remedy this situation of global unity and peace. So many cultures have come, multicultural country. We brought all our cultures to live together in harmony and with peace. This country is based on racism, so there's still a lot to overcome. But I think that, yeah, if we don't get it right now, well, what's going to happen? When will it happen? But I think it's important, yeah, and even I'm grappling with my own identity, knowing, trying to find my place, my role in a society where I feel very alienated from, and where I can tap into so that I grow in my own identity, my own strength as a sovereign person, and know that, I don't have to be oppressed, I don't have to be downtrodden, and I can live equally with everyone else and have the freedom to do that. But I think with the I'm sure a lot of you know the issues that we face over the past 250 years now, aren't we? So I was thinking, say 200 years, that's 250 years now that we've been stripped of our heritage, and we've been forced to be governed by this constant oppression by the government, the British government, and now this current corporate government that we have, which is totally like out of control. Anyway, I'll go into that a little bit later. People have, been researching, finding. I mean, I'm sure the knowledge is being revealed as time goes on, as we see the devastation it's causing. We're wondering, how is this possible? So there's a good handful of, no more than a handful of First Nation sovereigns that are exposing what is happening on this continent. And we now want to expose them to the point that, we can rid them of their laws so that we, can be empowered again. Because we know they don't have the jurisdiction of our lives. And we want to gain that back as the First Nations people. But so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that with so being a very ancient culture, we're on the verge of losing it, and it's a great culture, and it's not like just a culture, but it's the oldest living culture, on this planet. And when pyramids were being built, we were already here, and there's even evidence that we're finding of hieroglyphs, in different places. And we know that our ancient civilizations came to visit us, and they've even left remains of artifacts of their existence, their visitation at least, with us. Okay, oldest living culture, and it's where we feel most connected. The land, everything, we're connected to this land, and all aspects of life, all living species, we're connected to. We shared the relationship with everything, and it has that totemic nature, yeah, so that we can sustain ourselves, have the relationship with each other, and sustain, and the sustainability comes through that, where we've kept that ongoing for however long you want to say it's been going for. And we know that there's over 500 nations of the land, and we've all lived in harmony. And it's a vast continent, and we're able to share we coexist. It's very vast. We're very, the places, like just for an example, here on Gadigal, where the Wangal people were just over here at Darling Harbour, and the Camaragal are just across the bridge. So that close proximity where families were living. But it's not to say, well, obviously the harbour you can cross over in a canoe, but certainly it doesn't. Back then, it didn't take 20 minutes to walk around the rocks. It would take a couple of weeks to get around there. So just the trek, the landscape, the geography, it kept that's where our boundaries were too, that we were able to sustain ourselves in each boundary. And of course, the view of the military when they came in, as us as being naked, uncivilized people on this land. I mean, they have no regard for us. Little did they know that our status was quite, I don't know what the word is, but we showed we were able to recognize our status through initiations and through we can also define who's who through ochre, and how that person will decorate their bodies. It's an indication of who they are and what their ranking is. Yeah, whether he's a initiated person, whether he's a warrior, or he's simply going to a ceremony. So they didn't realize that then, that we are very much a society that's got, we've got, I don't know what the word is right now. Anyway, I want to give a quote. This is a quote that I found in a book. It's by a well-known anthropologist. I can find it. His name is, I'm sure you know this name, Claude Levi-Strauss. Claude Levi-Strauss. He said that Australian First Nations have been called by Claude Levi-Strauss as intellectual aristocrats among the early peoples. Outstanding features of traditional Aboriginal society include a sophisticated religion, art, and social organisation, an egalitarian system of justice and decision-making, complex, far-flung trading network, and ability to adapt and survive in some of the world's harshest environments. So, that's obviously through archaeological research, and we do have other records through, early settlers, and the common names that we hear of is Dawes, from up at Dawes Point, where he lived with that young girl, I forgot her name, and he wrote down the language. So he spent a lot of time learning the language, as well as Joseph Banks, Watkins Tench, and other pastoralists, and they've written in diaries, and we've got records of their interaction with our people. So there is definitely records that we can go to, and of course our own oral history through our families. Okay, hang on a sec. I'm just going here. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's important to understand what's happened, you know, what's happened to our people, and what the last 2 centuries have brought, you know, has brought drastic change to the people. Okay. It's like, well, you know, in 1994, there was a family that was just brought out of the desert. I don't know if anyone's heard about that, but that was the most recent, that was the latest findings of our occupation, where we lived at this nomadic lifestyle. This family just, I don't know what the town was, they walked into this town out of the Gibson Desert, stark naked. Yeah, they've got the dingo, and they've got the family, the man with his wives and kids, and they're like, what's going on here? So, you know, this has been an ongoing culture for so long, and it's only until that recent history, but you know, that we've been around and living that nomadic type of lifestyle. But you know, 250 years of dispossession, and the land has been stolen, massacres have taken place, and then government policies controlling our lives, where we go, where we live, what happens to our children. Policies gave the right to come in and take the children and put them and place them in the hands of you know, people as servants in the missions, and also in families to look after, to be basically servants with the families as well. They would be known as the stolen generation, yeah. But that has led, you know, the result of that has that dispossession has resulted in you know, things like cancer, diabetes, heart failures. The life expectancy is like 10 years less than an average person. And what else? Yeah, so, and you know, even now we see that unemployment rates are high, children don't get through school, and there are also other various problems with addictions and domestic violence. Oh, you know what the list is, but we make up 3% of this population. I don't know if many of you come in contact with an Indigenous person. I used to be a tour guide, and a lot of people had never met. I was like the first person that they'd met coming to Australia, and like they'd say, where are the Indigenous people? And I'm like, I'm here. Yeah. Even in the school that I was working in, a young fella, once I introduced myself, he sat down. I went up to him and he said to me, he says, are you an Aboriginal person? Yes, I am. And he said, I thought Aboriginal people were dead. And I thought, where did he get that idea from? So I don't know, we're still here. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, with 3% of the population, but we're making up most of the prison, we're making up 1/3 of the prison population as well. A lot of our children are in prison. I saw a post from a young fella, and I don't know if you've seen, his name's Dylan Voller. Has anyone heard of Dylan Voller? They did Four Corners did a report on him in it was from Darwin detention, youth detention center up there, and that exposure had got him free, but you know they just threw him out. They just threw him out on the street and go, off you go. After years of being in there since he was a child till he was a teenager, and throw him out, and he's just devastated. He says that his depression is so great, he doesn't fit in. He just can't get past the trauma that has been placed on him, and he's got absolutely no help to get out. And he's begging us on Facebook, does anybody know who can counsel me? He's reaching out, and they do that with children, and they'll just dump them on the street. There's another child I heard about, is 18, been living with the family, and his literacy and numeracy were very low, his education was low. He had no idea of how to live on his own. He was just dumped on the street. So, that's just certainly something that we need to address. I wanted to read out this quote, and later Ziva's going to put on a little clip from, and I'm sorry to say her name because unfortunately she's passed now, Rosalie Punok Monk.
Okay.
And yes, thanks, Ziva, but at the end, but I really was excited to meet her. A friend knew of her, and he was going to get us to join and have a meeting so I could meet her, because my mum mentioned to me she knew her from when they were in the convent together. They were nuns in Melbourne together. And Rose mum said, oh, do you know that movie Jeddah? Oh, yeah. Yeah, and she said that lady, she told me when you go to Uluru, it's like a cathedral. So I was really looking forward to meeting her. Unfortunately, now she's passed. But she does say here, and it could come up in that clip later, the homelands for Aboriginal person is absolutely your being, where you have been for thousands of years. Dispossess the person from that, and they become nothing. But we know that the people through this now, we still know now that, that the land means so much to us. You take away the land, you take away our identity, you take away our mother, our language. It totally is devastating. And it's where our connections lie. You talk to an Aboriginal person and First Nations person, you can see there's something in their eyes that tells you there's a connection I want in this land. We all feel that. Even I feel that. And I'm not even fully Indigenous. Excuse me. My dad's English, came over from England, 1939. Okay. So what have I got here? When I go home to the Torres Straits, and that's where I was born. My great grandmother is from Fraser Island, the Bachelor people. I'll just quickly say, grandmother was taken on a ship load of children. The older people were told that they were going to go to a birthday party celebration on land, but they were sailed all the way up to Yarrabah near Cairns, and a mission with Gribble had started up there. My great grandfather came down and was the cane cutting and married grandma, took her up, and that's where my family started in Torres Straits on Mer Island. Mer Island is where the Marbo case had stemmed from, originated from Uncle Koiki Marbo. But, when I go home, and I'm sure most First Nations people, when we need healing, we go back to the country, and that's where, so we can have that connection again, and to find out, to be who we are and our identity. But we found that when we do go back to country, we do find healing. We speak our language. I'll pick up the language again. I'll start saying words and in our dialogue. It's wonderful to have that connection. It's really great to go back and be connected. But since colonization, that's a really it's an uphill battle, because you want to go back, you want to learn, and you don't have that opportunity. This is the way our elders will pass information on: language, how to hunt, how to gather, and make that base connection back with the land. But okay, so that's important, and we know that those laws that we have, everyone can share those laws. It doesn't have to be just based on this government's laws, and which doesn't suit us. It does not suit us at all. In fact, those laws were created against us. So we were stripped of our heritage, as I mentioned. But what else is there? Okay, so over time, 1967, that's when I was born. Yay, year of the revolution. We were considered as part of the census then. Actually got to meet Faith Bandler and had lunch with her too, which was great. But in 2007, something weird happened. The government then suspends the Racial Discrimination Act, and that just continued the oppression and enforced policies on us. It targeted our First Nations people. Some examples of that, as you might be aware of, were I think they call them dog leashes, where they were dog something, and they were allowed to go and do certain things, certain activities, but they were restricted from most normal activities like everyone else. So there were made laws. Once they suspended that, the laws came in again to restrict us from our cultural lifestyle. I don't want to go back and forth, but yes, I think, well, because this divide is so wide now, the disparity is so great, education is really important. And I studied as a teacher, and initially they had it as a perspective in classrooms, but now it's compulsory. We have to teach our education, and but there's only so much that they're going to show, because maybe they don't want to be guilty of this genocide. Okay, what else have I got? All right, I want to give. I've written down a connection to land, and in the Northern Territory, in the Tiwi Islands, when a person is passed away, they will be buried. This is how important it is for us, anyway. Connection to land. They'll be buried. They will go then looking for a tree, a hollowed out tree, and they'll paint it. They'll paint the story of this deceased person, and then they will exhume the bones. They'll place it in that tree and stand it upright so it maintains that connection. It's really important that we keep that connection. And without that connection, the people won't exist. So we have to have that. We have to have our homelands restored back to us. And that way, once we can do that, we can then empower others, because we need to have that. We need to empower ourselves so that we can have something to share. I kind of don't want to go on too much more, because I think I'm going to take up too much time, but I do want to mention about the, so there's a lot to learn from that. And I do want to mention about Indigenous people, that is. I do want to mention about my trip down to Canberra in the Makuta camp. And I was saying to the ladies last night that, the way the tent embassy is here, and our brother Bruce Shillingsworth, who went down, like Bruce is Bala Bruce, he's got this, almost like a vengeance, I suppose, because where his ancestors have lived and for millennia, all their water's gone, and that's really, it's just terrible for them to happen, and he's fighting for that, for the government to stop destroying the people and the culture. That's I think why he's gone and placed himself in front of Parliament House to stand there shaking his spear, going, "Stop doing what you're doing." But they got separated from the Aboriginal community. When I got there, the police were actually tearing down all the camp and stuff, but they were continuing with the ceremony. And for the next few days, I noticed that people who had come to it was almost like a calling. They wanted to come to support Brother Bruce, and they all participated in the ceremony. They wanted to be cleansed. They did the smoking ceremony. They took their shirts off. They put ochre. They did ceremony around the fire. They came back in touch back with themselves, with nature, and with the spirit of the land in a way. And there was a beautiful harmony thing, and then it all fell apart because we had to leave, and then all the other stuff, that other million anti-vaxxers came. Completely different spirit, just completely different going into it, but and how to approach decolonizing the government, I guess. But okay. What do I want to? I want to say that I just want to kind of finish off with this, and then the video from Siva. But if First Nations people can have that opportunity to have a sanctuary of land, to practice the cultural practices, to have land restored to them, the churches can also contribute back to us. They built churches on our Bora grounds, where that took away all our ceremonial places. Even up here where St. Mary's Cathedral is built on sacred land at the Tabagali. And of course, like churches, police stations, government offices, any town halls, all those sort of places were able, they built them on areas where our people would congregate. They're open areas, and we forget, we forget that these lands have been cultivated by us, and they came and took advantage of that. So every one of us, we have that right to our sovereignty. Sovereignty is never ceded. And by the British coming and taking that away from us, we now know that that's a crime. It's a fictitious government, and we've all been living basically under a fictitious government of lies. Yeah. And so I think that once we can open people's eyes and bring each other back to that, we will, I guess, make a difference. But I've got a couple of remedies here. Peace, embracing the culture, embracing the people, all of us embracing in this multicultural society, embracing each other's culture, and I guess restoring land, restoring repatriation of artifacts, bones, skulls. They took Pemulwuy's skull head, and that's in a jar somewhere over there, some museum. And racism is just not welcome here. This is a land that we come together under one banner of unity. And if we can learn from each other, and particularly learn from First Nations people and their law of the land, everyone can touch that law. When I give a tour, by the end of it, people would be like, this is so wonderful. I love the lore of these people. You can feel the ancestral vibe. You know, the ancestors always there. I always welcome them. We dress up in ochre and then we tell the story and the presence of the ancestors there. And we can all share that. It's just natural for all of us to share that. Okay, that's it. I think I've done my bit. And I think, Siva, now, can you please play Annie Sophie's, Annie's clip.
You see the screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
You know, I have a culture. I am a cultured person. Ik maar panel tanangama. Ik maar jenanita tandiel. I am not something that fell out of the sky for the pleasure of somebody putting another culture into this cultured being. John chose what is an ongoing denial of me. I am not an Aboriginal or indeed Indigenous. I am Arunda, a Yawara First Nations person, a sovereign person from this country. I didn't come from overseas. I came from here. My language, in spite of whiteness trying to penetrate into my brain by assimilationists, I am alive. I am here and now, and I speak my language. I practice my cultural essence of me. Don't try and suppress me, and don't call me a problem. I am not the problem. I have never left my country, nor have I ceded any part of it. Nobody has entered into a treaty or talked to me about who I am. I am Arunda, a Yawara female elder from this country. Please remember that. I am not the problem.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you. And thank you that we could see our dear Auntie Elder there too. So there's a lot of love being sent your way, Faith. I don't know if you're seeing that.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. If there are any questions I can help answer, but I think this is a really good way of us, because, you know, global unity is love for everyone. It's a universal language. So we all have the answers really for this. So yeah, I think we can answer each other's questions as well, if that's okay. I don't want to be the one giving answers.
So if anyone has something, a question or some reflection that they would like to, Colin, would you like to begin?
Yeah, thank you, Faith. That was very moving and took us right into the, I guess, what you must be experiencing and feeling. So thank you for that. And it was heartbreaking right at the start when you said that you're grappling with your identity and your role in the society that you feel alienated from. And and that shouldn't happen. Obviously, that's not the way a community should be. And then you said later on, when we can open people's eyes, we can make a difference. So I'm just wondering, how do we do that? How do we open people's eyes?
Yeah, I think, well, probably more so, well, you know, like I said, the 3% of this population, it's hard to come by an Indigenous person. But what if you can just be able to participate and attend different things, different functions, and listen to Indigenous people, and, you know, like myself or Matthew, you know, like, so for instance, there is a event coming up where they're going to be doing down here at the Domain. They're going to be putting up a big monument, supporting things like that, where it shows cultural heritage, and going along to that, listening in, and just sharing, and just being opening your mind and understanding it. Because the thing is that, like, it's hard to understand our law of the land unless you're there on country, or you're connected with that person that can impart the spiritual nature of it. Yeah, just ensuring that we don't die out, so that there's more of us to impart the knowledge, and it will happen naturally. It will touch your spirit, and you'll go, huh? And I think a lot of you are already doing that. It opens your mind up. We just share like we do naturally in our forums. Yeah, it's just another way of doing it.
Is that coming soon at the Domain?
Oh my gosh, I should have told everyone earlier. It's today was the last reservation date. It's on the 26th, but I'm sure you can still get there. Just go. It's down on the 26th, and it's down at the Domain. Yeah, from about 1:30 till about 3:30, and it's going to be a fishing hook, bara. It's a fishing hook, so they're going to install a big fishing hook down there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Siva?
Thank you. Thank you, Faith. The Faith name appears as Donia Landy Ariel, but she is the Faith that we were talking about. I just wanted to tell everyone here, a long time ago, maybe 25 years ago, when we were visiting the block we call the Red Fern area, we met Faith, and she was working with, there was a white Australian lady, Diana Stevens, is that right?
Barbara.
Barbara Stevens, yes.
Yeah,
Barbara.
yeah.
She was a dedicated woman trying to help our children, the Indigenous children, and Faith was working along with her. So that was a long time ago, and we didn't have any contacts. And a couple of years ago, I mean, during the pandemic, when I was guiding at the temple, two ladies came. And one was Faith, and Faith came with her cousin, Kaini. She is a Baha'i, and she is the daughter of Uncle Noel Bond, a Baha'i from Thursday Island, who passed away some time back. And so we established our bond with Faith, and
Thank you for that.
and yes, so we were trying to encourage her to come and give a presentation, because we are trying to bring unity in whatever way we can. And there was no Indigenous voice in our forum, except that Tracy once gave a presentation on Uluru statement. And one of the, Colin was asking a question. I'm talking a little bit too much. I hope Tracy will forgive me.
Go ahead.
We had another Uncle Neville Buchanan from close to Coffs Harbour, a Baha'i, and he passed away too. And he kept on telling these stories, and he says, he tells the friends, the wider society, take off the cotton bud from your ears and shove it into your mouth. That's what he will keep on saying that. That means, please, he says in a way that is blunt, but what the indigenous people are asking is, please listen to us. Listen to our story, listen to our history, listen to our pain. And I'm requesting the Baha'i friends here. I was mentioning at the beginning, we receive guidance from the house, the Universal House of Justice. For every step of our life, we are guided by that infallible institution. And in one of the recent letters, they said, and which they have been repeating in many times, to remove the otherness, to be an outward-looking society. We have to build an outward-looking society. So we have to be aware of what is happening in our neighborhood, in the world, and if there are injustice, we have to try to remove it. So in whatever way we can, we should be able to do something for the indigenous people's rights and justice. And so that is my comment. I will leave it to the others to continue with their questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Siva. That's lovely.
Thank you. Okay, Yung, it's your turn.
Thank you, Tracy. And thank you, Donia. It was a wonderful lecture that you gave us. Very opening, like a guide for us to get into your area. In the Bible, in the old days, Moses took his oppressed people out of the land and moved to another land. So if you read the Bible, you'll probably be aware of how people move their people from one land to the other. But in your case, as I try to understand your points, you are in your promised land. So you don't need to move your people in a promised land or to go to somewhere better, because your place now is the best, because it's a milk and honey, productive area. Yeah. So, in the last few years, the bushfire probably didn't do any good for anyone. And so talk about the bushfire and the flood and COVID and everything. The economics has gone down, finance gone down, everything gone down. So not only your people get affected, bad effect from the economic downturn, but all the other people also on this land suffer the same way. My question to you, is that a language is one of the hinder your people to communicate with all of us? Because I found your language is very musical, just like song, just like French. The French people sing very well, and I think your people, very musical people, very creative. So, but do you have enough people there to teach people like us to come in? And what I'm saying is, you should, ask the government to lend you the libraries so you can organize all the Zoom, and you tell people, open their eyes, open their ears, so they can learn from you, especially the language side. Because when the doctor come into your area, they will need an interpreter, they will need translators for the medical, whatever medical documents. And when you go to the court, you got 12 juries, for example, but then we'll need documents. And because the language is, for me, just like my language. You see, I study French also, but just like language is complex, especially in technical legal terms and training and development and all this sort of area, especially billing and economics and money, finance. So therefore, that's one thing that you don't need to go to domain because police gonna be round everybody up there. You never know, we only guessing because for security, just like backup, they are good for us in a sense that you have safety, but we never know, misunderstanding. And if we don't have a language backup, you might have a problem. When we say, why you are here, what are you doing, what are you learning? Then if we don't have a language, we cannot tell them what we do. So for me, it's a barrier. But if we want to follow the mainstream, they have a fair go for all. It means that if people want to keep employment, they gotta be like 100% achievement in everything they do. No excuse. Just like I'm not Australian born, but examination and everything. We just have to be, they just want a Superman or superwoman around us to help one another. But I know your people are very, talented, genius, talented, creative.
Yeah.
And I really like the dancing. I like the language, just like songs, beautiful songs. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. It's incredible, isn't it? Because this the language is just amazing because, we're looking at up to hundreds of dialects as well. And all that connection through a songline and yeah, if we get rid of the language, we lose our identity. We weren't allowed to speak language. We were flogged, beaten, and people were incarcerated for speaking the language, I'm sure, but it was definitely removed from us. And it's so nice now when you can, like, I saw this clip and it was this cop who's doing the Wadama, he's doing the corroboree with the kids. And, the people love that when you're actually participating and doing the dance as well. And the whole body language is there and speaking the words, we can connect better that way. A friend had this idea of opening up a coffee cafe. And then when you come, you can, we'll have the menu in Gadigal or wherever we are. And we learn to order it, have 2 coffees, latte or whatever, and speak the language. And people who are interested, let's go back to that cafe because we'll get more of this language, just finding ways to be creative with it. But language is so important, certainly. Yeah. I mean, it's also fascinating that, and I'm sure you're fascinated as much as what I am, how it's oral language too. We didn't write the language down, and how did all those stories, how were they maintained throughout the millennia? Those song lines were maintained through song, dance, art, and all oral language, didn't have anything written down. It's just amazing. My friend called it walking libraries, like living libraries, a whole archive of information.
Thank you, Donia. Thank you, Tracy.
It's very impressive, actually, how it has been passed down through the millennia. Ali.
Thank you very much. Tracy, and thank you, Faith, for your presentation. Really, it is very touching, and I can relate to the injustices that has happened to the indigenous people in this country over many, many years from the beginning, I suppose, still happening. I suppose from the way I can relate it to it from my country of birth in Iran. So, you know, the Baha'is have been persecuted since the beginning of this faith. And I can remember when I was in Iran back in even my childhood, during even the previous regime, we were always persecuted by neighbors, by the people, by the government. So it wasn't a peaceful existence, really. Although we were native to the country, born there, spoke the same language, had the same color, everything the same, really, but still persecuted based on our religion. Although the persecution of indigenous people here based on race and many other countries, unfortunately, it happened. I can relate to that, and thank you very much for your presentation. The other thing, I think one of the questions you asked, whether you have met an Aboriginal or someone asked you and all these things. I know now my wife and I, we live in Sydney at the Baha'i Temple here in Mona Vale. But we used to live in Wagga Wagga in Riverina region, Wiradjuri country, which Gabriel comes from there. It seems from Wiradjuri country. I know over 30 years that we were there, we were always in contact with our Aboriginal friends. If you know Mary Gilmore, a famous poet and writer, Australian one, comes from that area. Even in one weekend with so many Aboriginal friends, we went there and did tree plantation in the school that she taught back, I don't know, 150 years ago or so long ago. And we were always during the year, I think, for the Aboriginal Reconciliation Week, we were always in touch with Aboriginal friends, and there were some events. So we had kangaroo meat, we had emu meat, we had emu egg, Johnny cake, and all these things. So we always remember those good times that we had really in those days. But my question is that I know that this injustice has happened and is still happening, and we can't change the past, but what we do from now onwards so we can really remove some of these injustices, not only for Aboriginal, but there's so many people suffering around the world for various reasons. So what are the steps that we as grassroots people we can take to remove those prejudices and discrimination that's happening?
Well, as I mentioned to Colin, I think just participating in what's around, like what you've done is the way to go. You know, participating when there's an event where the Indigenous people are doing a smoking ceremony. You know, just going there with, not because it's an event, you've got to get there, you know, 1:30, but to go there to just be part of the nature of what's happening. Well, and of course, you know, like there are a number of different organizations, or like, say for instance, I like the idea of getting Greenpeace to work with the Miriam people, because right where the island starts is right where the island is situated is where the Great Barrier Reef starts. And we have custodianship over that part of that reef, you know. And you know, Greenpeace go there, oh, save the reef, and but if they join up with the sovereign people, then that gives us some kind of, I don't know, a place in that, so that we get recognized as custodians over that land. But I think if people can connect with us to save, you know, different sacred sites, the Great Barrier Reef, the mining, stop the uranium mining and stuff. Uranium's killing families in Borroloola, and well, you know what the mining industry is like. I think if you just participate in whatever you find is around, and more people congregating around those events will just look good, because we can see that there's support from other people, from society. We're not just being ignored and it's another Aboriginal thing. And like also for instance with prejudice and stereotyping, that's obviously been embedded over time. And if we can, I don't know, just like you're saying, Ali, you can relate to it. So you're certainly not going to be imposing those, same oppression that you've experienced in your country on the First Nation people. Adjusting our mindset and our prejudices and our stereotypes. Now, one fella had just died recently, and the family are up in arms about it, because when he went to the hospital and they asked for his profile, because he admitted to being a Yandi smoker. Like a lot of our people just smoke ganja, or drink alcohol, whatever. But as soon as he said that, they instantly just disregarded him and said, oh yeah, have some Panadol, go and lie down over there, send him home. And then he woke up dead. They didn't give him any. There's this race, this stereotype. Get rid of all that. We are not the animals they perceive us to be. And anyway, something like that, yeah.
Thank you. Ahmad?
Yeah, hi, Faith. Very nice presentation. Thank you. You brought the history of what happened to the native people of this land and what injustices has happened. And it's still happening. I mean, you said that 1/3 of population in jails is from that 3% population of the whole community of Australia. So injustice is happening. But I want to look at it in another way. If you look at the history of humanity, there has been many conquerings and loss of property. Even Baha'is, my parents included, lost properties due to revolution. And we hear about all these different genocides, like Armenian genocide, the natives of America, Maoris of the Pacific, the islands of New Zealand. So what I want to say that is these things in history have happened and has caused injustice and all that. Yeah. So this is what has happened in the past, and we can't change the past, obviously. And we have to look at the future. And obviously, the injustices are still happening, and there should be correction for that. But what I didn't understand that, for example, you said that they have to return our land back to us. The people that lived, for example, in Sydney, they all passed away. They were, God knows, executed and all that. So some descendants are still there. But to me, it's very strange to say that they have to give us the land back, because that land has been probably bought by people 3-4 times and is handed from one person to another, the way they've, the economic functions. So I look at it that we should limit ourselves to the fact that people have to acknowledge that the natives of this land were the natives and the owners of the land, rather than asking for property, asking for land, because I think that has now become meaningless. For example, my parents have lost properties in Iran, and I don't think forever, well, my parents have passed away now, but us as ancestors will ever be able to get that property back, because
No.
probably 3-4 times been sold and the revolution is still there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say the injustices happened in the past, and it's just, for me, it's not comprehensible to say they have to give our land back. I want to understand, what do you mean by that? Do you mean acknowledging that the land was part of the property of the native people of this land, or you want compensation, complete compensation? For example, Sydney to be given back to a few ancestors that are left. What is the situation? What do you think is the right thing to do?
I think, well, it's come up with, well, I mentioned it before that, well, as we can see, it's a vast land. A lot of places that are populated now in the cities and stuff, obviously, we're not going to say, get out or do that, but there are still sacred sites that are still there that we can go, we can protect those. And I mentioned the word sanctuary. You know, there's, if you can go to our homeland, practice the culture, it's a huge area of land. And there's a lot of places that are, there's thousands of places where we've got I've got evidence, petroglyphs, you know, artwork and all these sacred sites. There's a lot of it. We just need to be able to have the place, the space to go and practice our culture. We're not asking for land back from in the city or anything like that. But just so that we can have a say over our own economy, how we're going to learn and live off the land. You know, we can contribute through our ancient knowledge if we're given the opportunity, but it can only come really, we can't do it here in Sydney. You can't do ceremonies down George Street, we'll get arrested. But if we can have a place where we can go, have our ceremonies and have our sanctuaries to build our culture back, that would be good. I think there was something at one stage where, you know, like most First Nation cultures, they are living in fourth world poverty, including our own. So if we can just like balance that out a bit, At one stage, they were giving 1% of, you know, something rates or something, 1% of, say, businesses, 1% of their tax would go into building up our community. That's not a lot to ask. And that way we can also, because, you know, what they've done over in with the basic card, all that stuff that happened. Tracy, help me with
native title.
Yeah, and
native title.
You know how they came in with the army and stuff, and the
intervention in the Northern Territory.
That sort of stuff. You know, it's just really, we don't need any of that. We just need to be left to our own laws, to practice our culture, build ourselves back up, help us out a bit so we can have some infrastructure the way we like it, you know, our own communal settings, so that we don't, you know, people complain, oh, look at them, we give them the houses and look at all those rotten cars, rusty old cars in piles, and they'll burn their houses, they break apart the house and they make a fire out of it. Well, we don't live in those sort of houses. We want to do it our way, you know, how we think that we can live in that. But we're certainly not asking for the land back. Don't worry. We wanted to live together. There is also an ancient prophecy which I've only just found about. It's called, it's a Virgin. It's named Virgin. The ancestors called Virgin. And the prophecy is that white people, when the white people come, we're going to be living together in peace. There is a prophecy about that. So, you know, I think this is the land of the Holy Spirit too. I think people have come here to flee persecution, to gain freedom. They want a better life. Let's do it here and learn from us. But we need space to practice that. That's what I'm asking. There's a lot of land. Get rid of those bloody mining companies. Stop them from destroying everything so we can go and practice our culture and revive that. Yeah.
You know, Faith, Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, has said that humanity is like a garden with different flowers and different colored flowers and all that. So if a section of that garden is persecuted and say water is not given and dried up and things like that, that's injustice. And the garden would be beautiful when all these different colored flowers flourish together in harmony. So that should be our aim, that humanity as whole, with all different races and languages and cultures, they must respect each other and live in harmony together. That would be a prosperous civilization.
Yes, and that will take time. We just need the space now to build ourselves back up, you know, and then we can give back stronger and better, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Just one thing, I just want to remind everyone that Manly is called Manly because the Aboriginal people were so healthy and strong compared to the British. And it's, if you give anybody white flour and white sugar, they will get sick. And people were stopped from being able to eat the food that was healthy purposefully. And that is why, you know, their health has declined. And the laws are actually draconian laws. That's why they're in prison, not because Aboriginal people are more criminal, but because the laws have been designed to actually imprison them. So I just wanted to put that point in. So Zoran, please.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Donia. Just wanted to thank you for your presentation and also to say that the meaning of world in Farsi means, the meaning means the world. I feel that you have the world of wisdom and that you can share it with your people and other people. And also I wanted to ask, have you seen, what has happened since past, for example, 20 years or 10 years from now? Is your community has been also building up your people for alcoholism and, all the family conflict and children's education? Are they also doing, apart from all the justice? This is also part of being just, for education in many ways. Are you doing a lot of things for family building, society, and also language? I love to know the language, at least to, if it's not written, but at least to be, collected as you can get it,
I downloaded a book called Sydney Language by Jacqueline Troy. She's a professor at Uni Sydney, and she's got the Gadigal language down from her research from Dawes and whoever else. And it's very hard to escape that cycle of addictions and domestic violence if those draconian laws that Tracy said are in place. The education system, the kids will go and sit in there and they talk that, listening to someone who they cannot comprehend, they don't understand, they'll be falling back in their grades. So, we're still very disempowered in that way. And for an example, with the children in custody, incarcerated, and Tracy mentioned last night with justice action, justice
reinvestment.
And like they're using the money that that's incarcerating children to put it towards a community-based operation where families are involved and take them out country. So there are some people that have been successful in business that are taking on children like Dylan Bola, like children who are going to constantly being in the welfare system. They'll take them under their wing, they'll train them up. I think there's one called, it's in Newcastle, around there, and they have dogs. The children go there and then they get to look after a pet, a doggy.
In Armadale too.
That's the one.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called.
Backtrack.
Backtrack.
Yeah.
Yep, Backtrack. And there's another one at Bush where they do the livestock. They catch the bulls or the cows and stuff. So there are men and women who are empowered enough that will go out there and bring children in. Like even I've done it before with a young fella. He was taken when he was 3 years old, and he came and lived with me. So I looked after him for a while. Like if we can do that and bring our children and change their view and give them the love that they need and show them, how to fit into, how to wash a plate, how to scrub the toilet, how to live, do normal everyday things that we could fit into society and not feel oppressed, to be looked down upon. Like I used to hate, and I still get the feeling, going into a shop and instantly, you're being walked, someone's following you around, and it just really gets to you after a while. You're just like, we're making a change here. We're trying to change our lifestyle. We're being educated. We're finding a way to fit into society. But there certainly are organizations that people have built, Indigenous organizations that are doing that. But there are also places that really need a lot of help still.
Thank you. I just feel that, in Iran, when the government came, the Islamic government, he just closed all the schools and universities to the Baha'i children, and especially universities, they couldn't go. But as Baha'is, they just started their own school and universities, and even the universities is recognized by Canada and maybe Australia also. I'm just saying that you have to build up your community, to really go to the grassroots of building families, and everything will be fine. It takes time. Everything will be good, but you concentrate more on building your community and your people, and people like Tracy and others also look for justice. Like it has to be really become everybody's, everybody try. Yeah, thank you. You said that everybody should help. Yeah, we have to also do that.
We need to be in a sanctuary where we can carry out that, and then we will be empowered to help our children, each other. The other thing, because the way they displaced us, we fight amongst ourselves a lot too. So we're healing ourselves, like, hey bro, hey sis, we're the same blood here. Let's get on with each other. But there's different classes amongst ourselves. We fight amongst ourselves. So we need that healing as well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Siva, it's your turn, or do you want to let Robert go first and you go last?
Yes, I let Robert go first.
Thanks, Shiva. Interesting, for a number of years before I retired, the end of 2015, I worked for a TAFE college in Melbourne, which had its own Aboriginal campus run by Aboriginals, teaching them Aboriginal art and helping them with their education.
Right. Yeah, like the Eora College.
That's still going now.
Wow.
It was totally managed by the Aboriginal community.
Yeah.
from the manager up. So there was.
That's fantastic, isn't it? The Eora College does that also. Has everyone heard of the Eora College in Sydney?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. That's great, isn't it?
Okay, Siva.
Thank you. And I just put a link in the chat. They have developed an app for the Aboriginal languages, not all the languages maybe, but some languages. I myself didn't download or get the app, but probably we can research more. And also Graham Hassel, he has left, but he's put a comment there. I think Faith was mentioning about those. He says those befriended Aboriginal woman, Pategarang. Pategarang. Yes.
Yes, Pategarang, that's in her.
Yes, yes. And the friends from the wider community have to be more open-minded and outward-looking. The Uluru statement, if you listen by the way, every Wednesday, there is a meeting, they have the Women's Reconciliation Network, of which Tracy is a member, active member. Every Wednesday there is a meeting, it's purely on the Uluru statement. The same statement is read, and then we discuss comments, strategies, how to move forward. So if there are anyone who is interested in the Indigenous justice, take a look at, or at least once attend this meeting, and then you will see. In that Uluru statement, they speak about a sovereignty, and they define that sovereignty as a spiritual sovereignty. Their connection with the land is their spiritual sovereignty. So we may misunderstand their wordings and their actions, but if at all you want to listen a unified voice of Indigenous people, please listen to that Uluru statement. And if you happen to participate in the meeting, but I like to suggest to the Indigenous friends, whatever it is, consultation. Baha'u'llah has emphasized consultation as a means of finding solutions to problem or even new project or whatever it is. Even if it is a small matter, he says to consult. And Abdul Baha has given the prerequisites for the people who are going to consult. That he mentioned purity of motive, right? Patience in a long suffering, radiance of spirit. So there are few of these things. And he also says that we should not belittle others' opinion. When we are consulting, we are not, our opinions may be different or not exactly coinciding. When those opinions are contradicting or not in a line, it is not those two people who express the opinions are fighting. It is the opinions are clashing. And Abdul Baha says through the clash of opinion, the spark of truth comes. So if we take this model or the advice of this consultation in our practice. So I put forward to the Indigenous friends to take this model of consultation and not to blame or criticize of any particular individuals or governments as such, but try to win the hearts of people, on the grassroots people through consultation and move the society towards unified. And if we really look at the Uluru statement, they are open-minded. There's no word of vengeance or retaliation. There's a peaceful coexistence that they are seeking. But they plead for the generation to come. Statistically, every aspect of human life, if you take the indigenous people, they are far, far below the average. Doesn't that say something to do with the systems? And that has to be changed. So let us be fair. Let us look at this and see how we can consult. So my invitation to the indigenous people is to take the model of consultation that is given by Baha'u'llah. With those qualities, let us consult wherever we are, with whoever we are talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Siva. And you know, that's really interesting that Baha'u'llah says that, because I think that's basically we carry those traits in our culture. You know, the patience, just the interconnectedness and respecting for one another. I love that the story of totems. If I'm a bee and I need that tree, I need that flower. So, you know, Tracy, you're that plant that I need to go and suckle from you, and you need me to, you know, distribute your pollen. So we have that wonderful nature with each other. We can only respect one another and preserve each other's lives, because that's how we're going to coexist and sustain our own life. Yeah, I like the Baha'u'llah's teachings, and I find that you'll find that we carry those personality traits as well through the lifestyle that we lead, and you know, that's part of our nature.
Yes, and the reason why the conflicts are, you know, not being resolved as easily now between the different Aboriginal people is because of not being able to practice culture, not being able to have, you know, like before at the start of every corroboree was, you know, well, let's sort out any previous misunderstandings or any problems that have happened since the last corroboree. We clear the air and then we, you know, eat together.
Yeah.
So there was a really good, but when the practicing of culture has been denied, then things and the channels of communication or the understanding of how to do that has been purposely taken away. It makes it very hard. And then once again, Aboriginal people get the blame, but it's so much more complex than what's seen on the surface.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you, everyone.
You know, you've really enriched us tonight.
Thank you.
And, you know.
Thanks, Tim.
Yes.
Thank you, Gabriel.
I think you want to say something.
Thank you, Donia and Tracy.
Yeah.
I think your people, they integrate in Australian society very well, because years ago, I trained them on a computer online, and they come into a workplace. They were very happy people. They were very enthusiastic, and they had specific skill sets, technical skill sets are very useful for the mainstream organization, especially the large installation. So they have no, you know, they're happy with people. They play harmony very well. And, you know, as a trainer, I'm very pleased with their achievements.
Thank you, Yun. And I wanted to add to Robert. Robert, what you were saying about being a TAFE teacher. Well, being Montessori, we have, it's called the children's, I forgot what it's called. Anyway, Montessori has gone to remote communities, and the elders have all embraced Montessori because, you know, it's very conducive to how they learn naturally. So yeah, that it's great to find a way for the children to relate to through some educational system. But Montessori works really well.
Excellent.
That community, yeah. Thank you. Thanks everyone. I really appreciate all your love and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you, Basanta. It's so beautiful to see your smile.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everyone. Thank you, Zore.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tracy.
Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Tracy.
Love you.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Asanta.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.